When creating an interesting and engaging game, one of the most important elements that you can add is animations. I am Nuf and today I am going to show you how to animate your Unity game. As you can see, I got a capture collider here, and basically this enemy is going back and forth. So in the previous video, I showed you how to make an animation portfolio, just multiple images using Photoshop. And I've transplanted those images, which I did in the last video, into this document. So we're going to go to our pat animations, which is what I did last video, and we got, as you can see, 4 different animations here. So we're going to go to our fire enemy. We're going to just move one of those animations into there, just so that it appears. And as you can see, it's a lot smaller than what it should be. So we're going to go back to our bat animation. And in my particular game, I'm going to go 16 pixels per unit. So your game could be very different. And then we're also going to come down to filter mode and go point with no filter. What that does is basically stops it from getting blurry. So we're going to hit apply. Now we're going to go to our second bat, and we're going to do exactly the same thing as we just did. So 16 pixels per unit, point, and apply. And we're just going to go down and do this for all of them. Alright, so now that we've done this, we now have to create our animator. So right now I have an animator already attached to it, but it's actually not the one that I want. So this one's for a different, as you can see, it's got boar, so that's a different enemy. That's enemy 1 here. But we obviously don't want that. So we want to come up and we're going to go to my animations file and my enemies file. So that way in our enemies folder, we're going to go create, and we're kind of going to go down to animator controller, and we're just going to name this bat. You can obviously name it whatever you want, but I'm naming it bat because that's what it's going to be controlling. Alright, so now that you have created your animation controller, just go to your enemy, your fire enemy, or your whatever you're animating, and come down to animator and just make sure you've put your animated controller in. So you can just pick it up and drag it in there and just drop it in there. And now the next thing we have to do is create our actual animation. So we're going to go to window, and we're going to head down to animation and then animation. And we're just going to hit create animation. Yeah. And we're going to go bat underscore fly. And I'm just going to overwrite this because I want to create a new one. And it'll start off with saying samples of 60. For a 2D platformer, often you only really need to have 12 samples, so we're just going to go with 12 and hit enter, and then we're going to move that a little bit out of the way and head down here and go to our bat flyer, and now all we need to do is just drag each of these in here like that. And so yeah, we're just going to do that, drag each of those in, and I made a mistake there, and then we're gonna just test that out and see if that looks good. So if I hit play here, you can see it move, and I don't really like the way that looks, so I'm just going to decrease it to 8 and probably come back later and just add in an extra 2 images just to help with the way the animation looks. So yeah, that looks better. Let me just move it a bit out of the way. So that looks quite a bit better, but yeah, again, I need to add a couple more images in it so that I can put it to 12 samples. But for now, that's what we're going to have. So we're going to close that, and it would have automatically put it as my default. So you're going to end up having more, but this is just an example. So that's how you make an animation, and cut to future me. So I've just jumped into Visual Studios, and I'm just going to scroll down to where my animations first appear. So just here, as you can see, animation set ball is crouching to true, And basically I've just put this at the same time as I'm executing my crouch method. So my crouch method only executes when the joystick's held down and the player's not jumping. So what you want to do is basically just trigger your animator while you're triggering your method. And then when I turn my method off, I basically am just setting my animator to false. So that's one way you can do it. And then a different approach is actually down here. I have just for the velocity, to tell when it's running, I've just used the math function and found the absolute of the velocity of how fast it's moving. And then if that value is positive, then basically the player's running. And then I just trigger that animation. So that is a different way. And then again, grounded, it knows that it's not jumping. So the jump animation is triggered while it isn't grounded. So that is also somewhere else. So let's just jump back into Unity and have a look at how I've done the animator there. Jumping back into Unity here, we can see that it looks like a giant mess, but basically my idle will turn off when the velocity x, which is what I showed you, is greater than 0.01. And when my crouching or my crouch boolean is set to true, whether it's idle, whether the player's idle, it's going to go to crouching, or whether it's running, whether the player's running, it's going to go to crouching. And then when that's false, it's going to go back to whichever one is applicable. So it's really as simple as just setting that up in your code and then just putting it into your animator. Hey, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did so, consider subscribing and leaving a like. I'm hoping to hit 100 subscribers within the next 6 months. So please subscribe and hopefully I can reach that goal.